Hello, my gems. Today we're going to do a midterm review video over parallel and perpendicular lines. This is like a really big part on the midterm test. So we're going to go through, do some examples, just some reviews of how to determine if lines are parallel or perpendicular. And so you can follow along with these notes and write them down with me. So remember that if lines are parallel, that means that they have the same slope. And if lines are perpendicular, that means they have opposite reciprocal slopes. And so remember, opposite reciprocal means you take the fraction, you flip it, and then you, if it was positive, make it negative. If it's negative, you make it positive. In order to find the slope, remember, that stands for, if you're talking about a linear equation, that y equals mx plus b. The slope is this m part right here. And then the b is your y-intercept. And remember, to find slope, I'm always doing the change of y over the change of x. So how my y values change, and then how my x values change. So for number one, it says determine if lines A, B, and C, D are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So I'm going to start by just looking at AB. And I'm going to write it in a little chart here with my x and y variables. So I'm just rewriting it. Makes it a little easier to see. And I want to know what the change of y is over the change of x. So as I go from my first point to my second point, my y values, I add 3 to them. And then for my x values, to get from -2 to +2, I have to add 4. So my slope for this problem is change of y over change of x. It's 3 over 4. I'm going to do the same thing for C and D. So make my chart. Point C is -1, 0. Point D is 3, 3. So change of y over change of x. To get from 0 to 3, I add 3. To get from -1 to 3, I add 4. My slope for this problem is 3 over 4. These two slopes are exactly the same. That means my two lines are parallel. Number two, same exact type of question. Determine if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. I'm going to do the exact same thing. So AB, I'm going to write it as a chart, 0, 2, 5, 4. Okay. My change of y, to get from 2 to 4, I add 2. To get from 0 to 5, I add 5. So my slope is 2 over 5. For segment CD, I make my XY chart, 1, 8, 3, 3. And now I do the same thing. My change of y, now to get from 8 to 3, I have to subtract 5. To get from 1 to 3, I have to add 2. So my slope for this problem is negative.
If you were catching a bus home, you need to be making your way down to the bus circle. We're going to get you out of here as quickly as we can. But again, bus riders, if you are catching a ride home tonight, you need to be headed to the bus circle at this point. Thank you.
Okay, now these slopes are not the same. However, if I flipped this fraction, right, 2 over 5, if I flipped it, it becomes 5 over 2. This one's positive, this one's negative. These are opposite reciprocal slopes, so these are perpendicular lines. Perpendicular. Okay. Number 3, determine whether the line equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Now, this one I've written it as an equation. I want my equations to be in the form y equals mx plus b because I want to look at the slope and determine if it's the same or if it's an opposite reciprocal. So I might have to rewrite some of these equations to be in this form. So my first equation does not look like this form, right? In this form, I have the y all by itself. In this equation, I don't. So to get the y by itself, the first thing I'm going to do is move the 4x from the left to the right. I'm going to move it by subtracting. So I've got -6y equals, now I can't do 12 minus 4x, right? Because this one has a variable, this one doesn't. You can't put them together. I'm going to make sure I put my x value first because that's how it comes in the problem. So I write -4x, and then this is a positive 12. Now to get the y by itself, I'm going to divide by -6, and I need to make sure I divide everything by -6. So my final equation is y equals, now -4 divided by -6, I can reduce that to be 2 over 3, right? Divide them both by 2. Bring down my x. And then 12 divided by -6 gives me -2. So my slope for this problem is 2/3. Now I'm going to look at the second equation right here. I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got 3x plus 2y equals 10. I want to get the y by itself, so I'm going to start by moving the x over. So I'm going to take that 3x, I'm going to subtract it. I get 2y equals, again, I can't put a constant together with a number with a variable, so I put -3x, and that's a positive 10. To get the y by itself, I divide by 2, and I divide everything by 2. I get y equals -3 over 2x plus 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. My slope for this one is -3 over 2. Now, looking at those two slopes, this is 2 over 3. If I flip it and change the sign, I get -3 over 2. These are opposite reciprocals, so these are perpendicular. Number 4, exactly the same. Determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So I'm going to start with my first one here. I'm going to get the y value by itself. I'm going to start by subtracting my 3x from both sides. I get -y equals -3x plus 2, because it's positive 2. And then I want to get rid of this negative sign right here. Well, if there is no number with that negative, you can put a 1 there. So I'm going to divide everything by a -1. I get y equals, so -3 divided by -1 gives me positive 3x, and then 2 divided by -1 gives me -2. My slope for this problem is 3. Now I do the same thing over here, and I go, oh my gosh, this one is already written in the correct form for me, so I don't have to do anything. My slope in this problem is 1 over 3. Now, I go, okay, this was a 3. If I flip it as a fraction, I put it over a 1, and I flip the fraction, it becomes 1 over 3. But in order to be perpendicular, they have to be not only reciprocals, but opposite reciprocals. So one has to be positive and one has to be negative. These are both positive, so these are not parallel and they are not perpendicular. These are neither. Now, number 5, write the equation of a line that is parallel to this equation right here that passes through the point -3, 5. So the first thing I want to do is figure out what the slope is of this problem so I can write an equation that is parallel, which means it has the same slope. So I'm going to start by rewriting this equation to be in the correct form. I want to get the y by itself, so all I'm going to do is add 2x to both sides. I get y equals 2x plus 5. Now, that's my original equation. I'm going to put OG over here. It's my original. The slope of that equation is 2. In order to be parallel, my slope should be exactly the same. So I'm going to keep my slope as 2, and then I'm going to use these 2 points as my x and y values. And I'm going to plug them into the equation y equals mx plus b. I'm going to solve for b because I want to find a new y-intercept so that my graph can be the same slope but start at a different point. So for y, I'm going to plug in 5. For slope, my m, I'm going to plug in 2 because it's parallel. For x, I'm going to plug in -3. And then I'm going to put plus b, and I'm solving for b. So now it's just a little bit of algebra. I've got 2 times -3 gives me -6. And then to get the b by itself, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I get 11 equals b. So now my final step is to take that slope, to take my b value and write it as a final equation. So an equation of a line that is parallel to this one and passes through the point -3, 5 is y equals slope 2x plus my b value is 11. And there's my equation. So all you're really doing is plugging numbers in. Number 6, the same type of question, but instead of it being write the equation of a line that's parallel, it's write the equation of a line that is perpendicular. So here's my equation. First thing I want to do is get this in the right form. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides because I want the y to be by itself. I get y equals 2x plus 6. My slope in the original OG equation is 2. However, if it's perpendicular, my slope needs to be the opposite reciprocal. So if I take 2 and I flip it like a fraction, it becomes 1 over 2. And then since this is a positive 2, this becomes a negative 1/2. So my slope is going to be negative 1/2. My points, my x and my y, are negative 10 is my x, 12 is my y. Now I'm going to take my m, my x, my y, and plug it into the equation y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. For y, I plug in 12. For m, I plug in negative 1/2. For x, I plug in negative 10. And then I put plus b, because that's what I'm solving for. Now, don't let this fraction scare you. You go straight across on the top, multiply, and then divide by whatever's at the bottom. So negative 1 times negative 10 gives me positive 10, and 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. Now to get the b by itself, I just subtract 5 from both sides. So I get 7 equals b. So now my final step is I have my b value, I have my m value, so I want to write the equation of a line perpendicular that passes through this point. So my equation is y equals my slope, negative 1/2 x, plus my b value, 7. And there we go. Now, numbers 7 and number 8 are exactly the same as this type, right? They're exactly the same as 5 and 6, except instead of me giving you the equation, this time you have to look at the graph and write the equation yourself. So it says, consider the graph of line A and point P. So here's line A, here's point P. Write the equation of a line that passes through point P and is parallel to line A. So I need the equation of this line first before I can do anything. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the points given to me. I need to figure out the slope. Remember, the slope is change of y over change of x, or in other words, here's my x, here's my y. It's how much do you go up or down, and then how much do you go right or left. So if I'm going from left to right, like I'm reading a book, if I'm going from this top point over here to the bottom point over here, right, left to right, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So go down minus 4, right, because I'm going down. And then I go to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since it's to the right, it's a positive 5. So my slope for this equation right here is negative 4 over 5. And you actually don't need to do anything else. The only thing you really needed was the slope. This point over here, I need to write the coordinates of because I want my new line to pass through this point. So when we do our coordinates, we always start at the center, 0, 0. I go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's negative 5. I go down 1. That's negative 1. So my coordinate is negative 5, negative 1. The negative 5 is my x, negative 1 is my y. Now, I've got the slope, I've got my equation. I want to write the equation of a line that is parallel, so it should have, it should have the same slope as this one. I want it to have this same slope. So I'm going to plug it into the equation, y equals mx plus b. For my y value, I'm going to plug in the negative 1. For my slope, my m, I want it to be the same since it's parallel, so I'm going to plug in negative 4 over 5. For my x value, I'm plugging in negative 5. And then I put plus b because that's what I'm solving for. So I'm going to do my fraction first. -4 times -5 is +20, and 20 divided by 5 is just a 4. In other words, this just, boop, canceled right out. And then to get the b by itself, I move that 4 from the right to left, so I subtract 4, I get -5 equals b. So I have my slope, I have my b value. The final step is to write it as an equation. Y equals my slope, -4/5 x, plus my b value, which is -5. Or you could put plus -5, means the same thing. Okay, last one, almost the same, but it says consider the graph of line F right here and point Q over here. Write the equation of a line that passes through point, well, let's just say point Q, I'm sorry, passes through point Q and is perpendicular to line F. So first thing I need to do is write the equation, or write the slope of this line. Now, I go from left to right. This one doesn't have points on it, so I'm gonna have to actually count on my own. So I'm just gonna pick 2 points that I see on the line that are right at like the crossings of my axis there to make it like a really nice number for me. And I'm just going to count how many I move. So change of y means you go up or down first, right? Up or down, over, right or left. That's your slope. So if I'm going from left to right, this is a positive slope, so I go up. Now be careful. Each one of these is 2, so I go up 2, 4. I go up 4. And then I go to the right, 2. So I go up 4, to the right, 2. Those are both positive because it's up and to the right. So my slope for this line right here is 4/2, or if I reduce that, it's 2/1. Now, because I want my line to be perpendicular, I need to have the opposite reciprocal of this slope. So I need to take this slope here, I need to flip the fraction and then change the sign. So instead of 2/1, my slope needs to be -1/2. Okay, now I'm gonna look at point Q. I'm gonna write the coordinates of the point. So it looks like I go over 8 and then down 4. So it's +8, -4. Again, be really careful that each one of those is worth 2, making sure you're really careful when you look at these problems here. Okay, so this is my x value, the 8, -4 is my y value. I've got my m, my x, my y. I'm going to plug it into the equation, y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. So my y value is -4. My m value, be careful, is -1/2. My x value is 8, and then I put plus b to solve for b. Okay, fractions, I multiply on top and then I divide by the bottom. So -1 times 8 is -8. -8 divided by 2 gives me -4. And then to get the b value all by itself, I'm gonna move this -4 to the left side by adding 4. Now what you're gonna notice is it cancels over here, but guess what? -4 plus 4 also cancels. It just gives me 0. So my b value is just 0. So my final step is I'm gonna write the equation, y equals mx plus b, by plugging everything in. Y equals, my slope was -1/2. X, and then I put plus my b value. Well, my b value is 0, so I can just leave it as y equals -1/2 x. You might also see it, it's very rare, but you can see it as y equals -1/2 x plus 0, but most of the times mathematicians are lazy. We don't like to write the plus 0, so we just leave it like this one on the left. And frankly, when you go to take your final exam, or your midterm exam, excuse me, I am like 1,000,000% they're gonna do it that way, not plus 0. All right, so that is it for our review over parallel and perpendicular lines. Now that you're done with this, you can do 2 different activities. One is going to be the color by number, and then the other one is your extra credit assignment about parallel and perpendicular lines. So I hope this helped you guys out. Hope you remembered a lot of this stuff. I hope it was a good refresher for you. Yeah, and that was our first midterm review video. Stay tuned for the rest. Have a great day.